feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Hunter Renfrow. He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
The Senegal baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball advantage. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Wednesday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and presented by Motley Rice, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. It is 12:02 p.m. on this hump day. JC Shurburtt is going to join us in just a little while. A lot to get to in Gamecock land. The basketball search, spring football is underway. We're certainly looking forward to having him back, as always, via at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB. And at Darren Goldwater, the Share Healthcare chat lines, they are open and available for you to comment. You can also comment through our app, which you should have downloaded by now if you haven't. I know how many people have downloaded it, just so you know. I get that information every single day. It's pretty cool. And a lot of you have, and we're really thankful. But we want to keep spreading the good news. So do that for us. Tell people about it. Download it, and you can comment in there, and we'll pop you into the program. And in our program today, basketball, football, and baseball, all of it to get to. College of Charleston with a huge upset last night over at Patriots Point. Carolina won, Clemson lost. Going to get to all that in just a little bit. The first four has begun tomorrow officially. March Madness. There's some people who they're official when it starts on Tuesday. I'm more of the it starts on Thursday type guy. No disrespect to the Tuesday and Wednesday first four opponents, but I'm more of a Thursday guy, personally speaking.
I've always been that way. I've always treated Thursday like a holiday. I'm as far back as I can remember, ever since I've lived here, so been out of college. As far as I can remember, every Thursday of the NCAA tournament has been wings, beer, bar. I mean, every single one of it. Doesn't matter what the job is. Doesn't matter where work has taken me. That's it. That's what you do on Thursday. Now that I have a little different mindset of college basketball, the tournament totally started last night. The NIT started last night. Heck yeah, VCU. Great job on the money line parlay for both teams that won last night. And riding my Cam Smith live bet over the weekend, I'm back. So the tournament has begun, and I'm back. Dang.
Well, speaking of beer, wings, and bar, or whatever you said, y'all can all do that tomorrow without us. We're going to air tomorrow and Friday from 10 a.m. until 12 p.m., when the tournament begins on both days. I think 12:10 is the first tip for both Thursday and Friday. So JB and Goldwater will be from 10 a.m. until noon tomorrow, 10 a.m. until noon on Friday to get you out of here and let you go enjoy your basketball afternoon. And you don't have to worry about balancing TVs or listening to us and then watching or anything like that. We're going to get out of the way. We know where our place is when it comes to the big dance on the national scale. So just put that reminder in your phones, and we'll send out if you've downloaded the app, you will get a push notification about it that 10 a.m. Thursday and Friday this week is when our program will air. Nothing like I'm back right before the tournament. You're right, Ryan. There's no doubt about that.
Dude, yeah. I mean, there's no better time to be back than heading in. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
No doubt. On the Share Healthcare chat lines here, let's see. Yeah, Adam, you're right. Eddie Rosario did just re-sign with the Atlanta Braves, so he will be back in the red, white, and blue uniform this year for Atlanta. Craig, I am aware that Bryce Lindsey decommitted. I think it actually happened last night, but he announced it this morning. We're going to talk to JC about that in a little while as it pertains to the basketball conversation we will have about the future of Carolina hoops with Frank Martin now no longer leading that charge. In the first four last night, the 16 play-in game, Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, and Texas Southern. Texas Southern wins 76-67. So they have advanced to take on number 1 Kansas coming up this weekend. And Indiana took down Wyoming 66-58 in a 12 seed play-in. So Indiana will face off against St. Mary's on Thursday, tomorrow. So that is what happened last night in the NCAA tournament. The NIT also started yesterday. VCU beat Princeton. Vanderbilt beat Belmont. Oklahoma over Missouri State. North Texas beat Texas State. Xavier defeated Cleveland State. Texas A&M by 12 over Alcorn State. They should be in the dance. We're going to get to that in a little bit. Oregon takes down Utah State 83-72. Washington State over Santa Clara, and St. Bonaventure over Colorado. Tonight, there's a host of games in the NIT as well, including Florida and Iona. That's Rick Pitino and Iona versus the Gators at 9 o'clock on ESPN2 tonight. Long Beach State and BYU, St. Louis, Northern Iowa, SMU, and Nicholls State. Virginia and Mississippi State, an ACC-SEC matchup at 7 o'clock on ESPN2. Dayton and Toledo at 7, and Wake Forest and Towson will play tonight at 7 o'clock on ESPN+. And then the NCAA tournaments play-in games tonight, the first 4. The second round of those, the 16 play-in, Bryant and Wright State at 6:40 on True TV. And 9:10 tonight, Notre Dame and Rutgers on True TV at 9:10. Darren, Wright State is a 3-point favorite. Notre Dame is a 1-point favorite in that one.
Believe that Bryant opened up as a favorite and that flipped hard the other way. It's worth a watch. I mean, just to watch fun basketball. Bryant scores a ton of points. They have the nation's leading scorer, whose last name is Kiss. And Wright State's a fun team to watch also. I like Wright State in the game. I think I'm leaning Rutgers in the other game, but it's worth a watch. That'll be an entertaining game, I think. Yeah. The first one will. Second one could be ugly and low scoring. The first one could be an entertaining game.
Yeah, I actually ended up getting a few more points in the game last night between Indiana and Wyoming than I thought they were going to have for a while. It looked rather bleak at times offensively.
As much love as we've given the Mountain West, and deservedly so.
Sure.
I don't love their draws here. I had Indiana last night. I have Michigan as the 11 seed. They're favored over Colorado State. I've got them there. Don't love San Diego State's spot either. Not a ton. I mean, I think they'll get by Creighton, but I don't think the Mountain West is going to have a great tournament. As much love as I've given them all throughout the year.
Yeah, I don't. Boise State, Memphis too, with the right to play Gonzaga. That'll be an interesting game. I do like the matchup, but I did pick my bracket, and I picked Memphis to beat Boise State there. So for whatever that's worth.
That's one of the holes still on my bracket. I've done a lot of it, but I still have some holes. Boise, Memphis is one of them. But I'll lean Memphis.
Yeah, I'm following your lead. Just 12:08 on a rainy Wednesday afternoon. Hopefully, wherever you are, you will find a way to stay dry. If it doesn't dry up around here in the Low Country, the Texas Longhorns and the Citadel Bulldogs will not be able to do battle tonight down at the Joe. Texas looking to complete a 5-game road trip in the Palmetto State by trying to have a winning record. Right now it's at 500 because South Carolina took 2 of 3 from the Longhorns at Founders this weekend. And last night, the College of Charleston was all over it. The Cougars 8-4, the final over at Patriots Point. A great upset of the second-ranked team in the country, and a much-needed victory for Chad Holbrook and his Cougars. And so congratulations to them. I texted Chad last night and I said, how about those Cougs? About an hour later, he must have had a bunch of texts because he finally got back to me. It doesn't get any easier, though. They welcome East Carolina to town this weekend at Patriots Point. We talked about this before the season started. This stretch here, boys and girls, check it out. Texas, ECU at Georgia Southern next Tuesday. And then conference play begins with Northeastern next weekend. And again, for those that have just missed this, Northeastern is good. They only swept NC State and Raleigh, and then they took a game from the Tigers last weekend in the Upstate. So this is a critical stretch for College of Charleston baseball. And then they got to go to Charlotte, a pretty respectable program as well. Or if they can get some wins, they're gonna start to do some damage in the RPI stuff for baseball. So we'll keep our eyes on that. Elsewhere last night around the state, Carolina defeated Gardner-Webb 12-0. That game ended after 7 innings, And the Gamecocks got their 10th win of the season, and we all know what's on deck is the SEC. They'll head to Knoxville this weekend to play Tennessee. And in the upstate, Clemson lost their second in a row, defeated 6-1 by Georgia State. So the Tigers, after an undefeated start, have lost a couple of games. And I will remind everybody that this happens, and the ultimate reminder is, that Southeastern Louisiana beat number 1 Ole Miss last night, 5-1. That should be a nice reminder for everybody that in baseball, you can lose games, and it is going to happen.
Yeah. And Patriots Point, Texas. It happens.
Right.
It definitely happens. I agree with you. Texas wants to get home. They have no need for the state of South Carolina right now at all.
Yeah, I think they're wanting to move on. I just got to mention this because I did get a chuckle, and it is pretty funny. I'm just going to read the tweet. Coach Beamer must be on the Duke's Mayo payroll. He says he has a picture of himself with a sandwich and mayonnaise on it, and he's also holding a jar of Duke's mayonnaise. And he said, I confess I haven't eaten mayonnaise since the Duke's Mayo Bowl Mayo bath, but I'm officially back on the Mayo train as we kick off the spring season. Go buy yourselves some Dukes in celebration of the season kicking off. Go Cox.
Yeah, it sounds like he's on the Duke's Mayo train just a little
NIL.
bit.
That's NIL to a T, isn't it?
That sounds pretty paid. That sounds like one of those things that should have a hashtag ad somewhere in there. Yeah. Hey, good for him, man.
Well done,
you
Shane.
get dumped in Mayo, you may as well get paid to promote Mayo.
That is funny. Well done, Shane Beamer. All right, 12-12 here. Let's see, on the Share Healthcare chat lines. Adam, by the way, JB, I feel like I'm on the same side of the Freeman fence as you. There was an excellent article written for Yahoo Sports about how Atlanta treated this whole thing and how disrespectful they were to Freeman and his camp. I haven't read that, but I will check it out. Will says, surprise, Freddie hasn't signed with anyone yet. Wonder what's taking so long for other teams. I don't think it's other teams that are taking long. It's probably Freddie's agent going, well, they offered 200. What are you offering? All right, 215. They offered 215. What are you offering? I mean, if you're in the Freddie camp, you're going to, now that you're not going to be in Atlanta, you run the price tag as high as you can.
And other teams are making moves, right? I mean, the Yankees have re-upped with Rizzo. Someone else went out and got the third baseman from the A's as well, which takes them pretty much off the board. So other teams are making some moves too. He might not be the highest priority for other teams as well.
Yeah, potentially not. You don't ever know. I mean, we can speculate all we want, but we don't know. So we'll see. Craig, did the big freshman pitch against Texas? No, he did not. He'll that is Daniel Brooks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, he'll pitch this weekend. But they did bring in weekend starter Ty Good for an inning last night, and he promptly struck out the side. And that's essentially just midweek work. I mean, he was probably going to throw in the bullpen yesterday, so they figured, why not? We got a chance to sew it up, plug him in there, and they did it. And then after that, William Privet, who threw 2 innings, walked 3, struck out 5, left the bases juiced as they won the game last night. I got to give some props to Chad because a couple of weeks ago, Darren, when we were talking about their program, and I think we had Gene on, and Coach Holbrook sent me a text and said, thank you for discussing us. That means a lot to our baseball community. Mm-hmm. And I said, absolutely. I mean, that's what we're here for, man. Whatever. And then he promptly sent a follow-up text with, thanks for talking about all my pitchers. Don't forget about William Privet, who leads the country in whip. I texted him back. I said, yeah, I didn't do enough research. I'm sorry. So there you go. We'll throw William Privet's name in there. So congrats.
That's a good old backhanded compliment. Thanks. But by the way, don't forget how good this guy is.
Yeah, absolutely. He knew I was laughing. I texted him back. I was like, oh, you weren't really thanking me for talking about the program.
No, you were getting something else out there. Sliding in what you want to get slid in.
Yeah, you wanted to get your plug. I get it. That's cool. Adam says, I guess in response to Will, from what I've seen, it's that he's still narrowing down teams. The latest teams to be in the hunt are the Dodgers, Red Sox, and Rays. I'll be honest, I would love to see him in a Red Sox uniform. I'm not a diehard Red Sox fan, but it was hard to not hop on board with that franchise when they were going through what they were going through in 2003 and then 2004 and so on. It was just so much fun. And I've talked to Jackie multiple times about playing for the Red Sox, and I've talked to Steve Pierce about it once. Matter of fact, those guys just adored their time in Boston. It's a really unique setup, and know a bunch of guys that have played there. I mean, Smokes played up there, and all these guys. It's we all know what Fenway Park is. So I don't know. There's a part of me that I always kind of pull for the Red Sox, and I don't like the Yankees. So that's just kind of a reason to pull for the Red Sox. So if he goes to Boston, have at it, Freddie. Pepper that left field monster all year long.
Yeah, and just be yanking him around the pole too, downright. The other part, if you're a National League guy and you're losing one of your guys, it's hard to see him go to the Dodgers. I mean, I went through that last year with the Nationals. It's hard to see him go to the Dodgers and watch the Dodgers stack a team that's going to come compete against you. That's tough to stomach. Personally, hey, I don't care where Freeman goes, but I get that part. I get it's hard to stomach watching some of your guys in the National League go to the Dodgers. I mean, here we go again.
I think a fair question for like the diehard Braves fans, and I mean, I can't say I'm a diehard. I need to be honest with everybody because I can't even watch the damn Braves. But I did grow up a Braves fan, and I've always been a Braves fan, and I'll always be a Braves fan. But I think a fair question is, I'd be interested to see the results. And I'd want it to be broad now, not like not 50 votes or 100 votes. I want like a couple thousand votes. Who do you despise more? The Dodgers, the Mets, the Phillies, the Nationals? I would still say that the Mets are right up there, but I don't know. The Dodgers might be above New York now just because of recency bias.
I wonder. I think it goes back once the year gets underway again. I think you'll slide back to New York because they're going to be easy to hate. I think the Phillies, if you're not a fan of the Phillies, that's going to be a team that is easy to hate this year too. Just from a pure fan standpoint, I think the Phillies have a shot. I love the fact that they just went out and got Sherbert too. The Nationals' old hitting coach is there, which is going to help Bryce Harper. It's going to help that lineup. It's a natural reunion there with Sherbert. The Phillies scare me this year too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Philly fans are brutal. I mean, it's just I've been to Philly. No offense to anybody that's watching or listening to our show who might hail from Philadelphia. I know Dawn is so proud of where she's from in Philly.
Yeah.
That's great. I've been to Philly. Don't ever want to go back. It's kind of a dump. I've walked around, took my kids around, didn't feel safe. It was dirty. It was just yucky. And I was like, I've been to a lot of big cities, and this is by far my least favorite. So I'm not a Philly guy. Maybe that carries over to the program. Oh, yeah. But I forgot about the ultimate reason for me to despise the Phillies.
Oh,
I totally forgot about this because, and if you Google this, let me give everybody a little trick, and it is funny, and I'm making fun of him because he is my best friend. But if you Google, I can't remember the name of the website, like top 10 craziest sports stories ever. It comes in at like number 7 or 8 was when my man, Mike Cisco, got traded from Philly to the Angels for nothing. Like not a bus ticket, not a Hardee's meal, not cash considerations. The old punchline, Darren, as you well know, used to be, man, you got traded for a player to be considered later. Nope, no consideration. We're just literally giving him to you, but we're calling it a trade.
We don't want to take him.
I still we bust his chops all the time. Like, dude, they didn't ask for anything for you. Doesn't that kind of make you feel bad? He's like, oh, I can't take what he says, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So he sent it to me. He's the one that found it one time. Somebody sent it to him or something. And he sent it to me. He goes, check this out. I'm the 8th craziest story ever in the history of sports.
Well, look, man, he didn't have the lengthy career, but at least he's got something, right? It's better than most people get.
They did draft him and they did pay him. So, you know, props to them for that. But, yeah, so I forgot about that. I don't like the Phillies because they traded my man for nothing. And he was better than 2 of the dudes that he played with in Reading that got called up and shouldn't have. So there you go. All right, 12:20. Did you hear Buzz Williams last night after the game?
I did not. I read, I think, some of his comments, but I didn't actually hear what he had to say because we agree. Texas A&M should have been in the tournament.
Yeah,
we disagree in that I'm just not getting up in arms about it because they're the 69th team. So, yeah, the system is very, 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 very good, and they should have been in, and they weren't. Okay.
Yeah, I see his side though, and that is the side that I'm absolutely on. We're arguing this from an entertainment standpoint. He's arguing it from the standpoint of he's got players who are never going to play basketball again, who got robbed of being in a once in a lifetime opportunity of being in the dance. And I watched it all. It was long, Darren. He prepared a whole statement and he read it. And what I'm most interested in addition to his words and his emotion, and you got to remember that there's a personal deal for him. So, he is speaking from a different angle that none of us can speak from because we're not in it. So, but he didn't read what was in his report. He spent 2 days putting a report together about the committee and the committee that selects the committee and who the committee members are, and all of the information that he could find in doing a bunch of research and studying over the last couple of days. And he put together this whole report on who these people are. And basically what he said was there are biased people on the committee and it needs to stop. Now, I'm only speaking for myself. I'm not going to speak for you or anybody else out there. I can't argue against what he's saying because I don't know what he's saying. I have no idea what he found. I don't even know who some of the people are on the committee. Hell, I don't know if I know who anybody on the committee is. So I can't sit here and say, oh, Buzz Williams is right and these people are wrong, or these people are right and Buzz Williams is wrong. I have no idea. But I would love to read what was in that. And I hope, he said he made all the copies available for reporters. I hope that somebody is rummaging through that and fact checking everything they can fact check. Let's talk about it. If it's worthy of talking about, let's do it.
He's supporting his guys. That's what he should do because it is personal for him and it's personal for them. So that makes perfect sense that Buzz Williams would come out and say something along those lines. It's not that biased at all. So I vehemently disagree, regardless of his research. And I'm like you, I'm not going to sit here and be able to name everybody. There's a reason why there are bracketologists all over the place who come very, very close to nailing everything. There's very little bias that's involved in any of this. If there was, you wouldn't have guys on the outside able to get so much so right, like dead on almost right. So there isn't that much bias in there. If at all, I mean, I don't think any of these committees really have a bias about them. They're not out there to screw someone or to pump somebody else up. They're out there for the good of the game. And Buzz is out there for the good of his guys. And that's what he should be doing. That's what his job is. So it doesn't bother me that he came out and said that. I'm not going to sit here and agree with that, but it doesn't bother me because if I was in his shoes, I'd probably do the exact same thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, I don't know what's in it. And, to better summarize what he was trying to say, I'm not sure that he meant, and I again, let me make sure that I say this properly because I don't want to come off as opinionated on this because I don't have an opinion. I don't know. But I basically, after watching all 7 minutes of his comments, and especially towards the tail end when he was kind of getting to the point, I don't know that he was saying that the entire system is biased or rigged. I think what he was referencing was specific, like, okay, these are the teams we have to choose from in this one spot here. And he never came out and said the word rigged or bias. It was just the way that he worded what was in there. And he basically said that he has paired research with the research that he had to prove his point, and he hopes that people will read it. So I'm just kind of speculating here because maybe I've spoken too broad of terms, and I don't want to. I'm going to backtrack, but I'm not doing that because I feel like I'm wrong. I don't think he was saying the committee itself has an agenda or is biased or anything, but they have tendencies to do certain things in certain situations like this. And he was the situation that he's referencing. His team was.
Right. So that part is certainly more fair. And that goes back to the conversation we had yesterday. Hey, maybe back the tournament up. Back it up so that it ends on Saturday so that there isn't this idea, true or not, and history tells us it is, that the Sunday games don't mean as much because in that explanation there, we do know some of those things are true. We do know that once we get to that point, most of it's Most of it's done. Most of it's figured out, and it's just a matter of, one thing sliding one place or another at that point. And that, it makes a lot of sense just to at least back it up. I see that point. I agree with that point, because if those Sunday games aren't going to matter, make them matter. Play them the day before so that they actually do matter. I get that. And again, he's out there fighting for his guys, which he should do. But I'm not losing much sleep over it. And if you're not a Texas A&M fan, then you shouldn't be losing much sleep over it either, because the tournament's going to be a lot of fun. I'm losing sleep over my bracket. I'm losing sleep over looking at all the games and breaking all of them down and getting excited about tonight, tomorrow, and Friday. I'm not losing sleep over Texas A&M.
I think, what would be kind of neat, and I don't know if you could do it or not, Darren. I haven't, this is a spur of the moment thought. This is not something that I've, jotted down or anything like that. But I think something that would be neat is if you had a panel of, I don't want to say current coaches, because that's not fair. Like, current coaches aren't watching all of the games.
Mm-hmm.
But if you had a panel of coaches, former coaches maybe, who would be willing to do the same thing, create their bracket at the end of the year. Not that it needs to be used officially, but just something. I mean, no, but there's no rule against that. But if it would maybe better basketball, and let's just see. I mean, for instance, Coach K and Coach Williams, as far as I'm hearing, are no longer coaching North Carolina and Duke, right? And Frank and some other coaches out there, and they say, hey, we'll create this little committee, and we're going to release our own bracket. And let's see what it looks like compared to the committees, and let's give our reasonings. I mean, there's nobody that says that you can't do that. And would it be bad for basketball? I don't think so. Why not? Let's just see what their opinions are and how much basketball they've watched, and just as a reference point, because we might find in a lot of the conversations we have about this that we're all wrong, and that these guys on the committee are dead on, spot on every single year, and the rest of us we're griping without enough information to gripe or to gripe with. I don't know.
And I think that's where I'm coming from. That we are the griping here. If you go, what was that website where you can compare all the different potential? It was a bracketologists.com. Yeah, something. There are more bracketologists out there than you have any clue about. Like, there's tons of them. And if they're all so closely aligned, there are differences, right? There are little differences here and there. But if you take the sum of the parts, they are so closely aligned with what actually happens that I think they're doing a good job. How are you going to take – it's not easy to pick out 64, 68 teams from 350 and parse it down once you've got your AQs. Then you're trying to – it's not easy. But no. So you need some form of data and computer. You need some type of analysis out there other than I've watched a billion games on tape, which they do that as well. I mean, that is part of it, but it's not, the eye test isn't much of a factor here.
Yeah. I was having this conversation. I think we got to go with JC coming up next, but I was having this conversation, Darren, on the phone with somebody yesterday, and they said, well, isn't the purpose of this to get the best 68 teams into the field? I said, no, that's never been the purpose, because the best 68 teams are not in the field ever. Never. You have conference champions, and then you have the best of the rest. That's it. That's the purpose.
Yes. And that's always been what it has been ever since it expanded to this, right? You're rewarding conference champs and you're putting them in. Then it's the best of the rest after that. So right. Yeah, that's why 16s don't beat ones, because it's not the 68 best teams.
That is exactly right. All right, it is 12:29 on a Wednesday afternoon. JC Shurburtt, owner of the Big Spur.com, is coming up next. Before we get there, I'll just save this until we get back. We've got some All-American teams out for the ladies, and so we'll mention those. And we'll welcome JC to our conversation on the other side of the break.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right, we take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need need the perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or StokesVW.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity financed a new loan, subject to lender approval.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work, and two others you probably don't think much about. Stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
It's the best time of the year on the sports calendar, and there's no better place to soak it all in than your spring headquarters. Dog and Duck, with 3 area locations in Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. Until May, $5 pints of Wicked Weed Brews and Devil's Backbone, again, until May. Patio seating, happy hour daily, family bingo on Monday, the Duck Truck Double Burger every Wednesday, rib night on Friday. It's the place to be for the best wings in town, the best sports everywhere you look. Dog and Duck, 3 area locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road.
Motley Rice LLC is a law firm with international reach, but it hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for people harmed by products, medical drugs and devices, and also catastrophic injuries and auto recalls, including dangerous Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. Visit motleyrice.com. Thank you, Motley Rice, for supporting the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
Your online radio. The new online radio that makes you happy. I got honeybee beating on my screen door. I got a little buzz in my head. So cause we come from a long line of sinners like me. La-di-da, la-di-da, la-di-da.
You were listening to the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online.
Don't cry for me when I'm gone. Just put a quarter in the jukebox and sing me back home.
We just let this play. Why would anybody want to hear what I've got to say or you've got to say or anybody else has to say when the Chief is on? I know if you're around me and the Chief is playing, you better shut up. I don't care what words are coming out of your mouth.
Oh, man.
You know?
Hang on. Yeah, what if you're like in Applebee's or something and the Muzak starts to play it?
Yeah. Shut up.
People play on the jukebox. You have to make the whole table has to be quiet, Jamie.
Yeah. Everybody shut the you know what up.
It's going to stand on the bar, pound it down. Yeah, silence.
Yeah. Silence for the Chief.
When we were in Greenville in, I don't know, what was that? December. I had a guy up there who was kind of like trying to tell me a story. I was like, dude, shut up. It's like, I only get to do this 3 hours a year, man. You shut up. I'm listening to the Chief. I'm like, talk to you later. I don't even like you, actually.
Yeah.
All right. 12:35. Hey, JC, what's up?
Hey,
how those ribeyes work out yesterday?
Really good. I really was actually pleased with them. Got them on sale, and they were delicious. It was beautiful weather outside here. It is today again too. So That usually means, down in South Carolina and Tennessee and the southern states I once inhabited, that usually means NCAA tournament first weekend. It's like 60, 65, 70-degree weather, maybe 80 sometimes. So I'm kind of back in my element today because it's warm. We got the first round of the tournament. All right, here we go. It makes sense. 2 years ago, there wasn't a tournament, and it was, 28. So I'm kind of reveling in it.
Well, do you have big plans for March Madness this weekend?
Yes.
All right. You going down to your local Cheers bar?
Yeah, the girlfriend's off work actually. So she took 2 days off. So
wow.
Yeah, we're gonna get together with some friends. It's St. Patrick's Day Thursday officially, I guess. That's actually a big holiday around here. So so we're looking forward to it. I'm fired up. A bracket. I got to really dig into the bracket because of everything that's been going on in South Carolina. I haven't dug in quite yet, but I am going to.
Oh, I meant to tell you, Darren. I told you I filled up my bracket. I usually do 2 or 3, but I the first one I have gone with Kentucky to win it all.
All right. I haven't even gotten to that point to totally select it yet. I might actually go Gonzaga. I also might have Gonzaga getting knocked out by Texas Tech. So I'm not positive yet where I'm going. Very chalky though. Very, very chalky.
You know what? Mine is too. It's pretty chalky. I've got a couple here and there, but nothing earth-shattering. Matter of fact, I think I've got 2. I think I have a couple of 11s. I've got Virginia Tech over Texas, but that's it. No, I have Iowa State beating LSU. I just feel like there's too much going on at LSU. So I got Iowa State beating LSU.
I'll throw this in there, and then we can get on to everything else. I love LSU in the first round because going back to football, I've mentioned this a lot. When coaches have gotten fired or something bad around the coaches, the teams have always responded, and they've played well. There are multiple examples in college football season. There were a couple of examples again in college basketball season. I like LSU there. I really do.
Okay. All right. Well,
I don't know. I can't get behind that one.
But
we'll see. I mean, I know where you're getting at with that, but we'll see. Sort of.
I have Arizona.
Can't score. Like the 3 of us can score equally as effectively as Iowa State.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. I have Arizona in the final, by the way, against Kentucky.
Love Arizona.
I like Arizona.
That guy
JC.
can coach. Yeah. That guy can coach.
Speaking of Arizona, Sean Miller's out there, right? What's the latest? What do you hear on the search to replace Frank Martin?
It's been quiet, just for the most part, I think. And if you go on the BigSpur.com, I'm not going to say that we knew for sure this was coming, but there was a window for us to prepare some behind the scenes info and check about candidates and make a hot board. Unlike the football search where had Muschamp beat Ole Miss that Saturday, he probably wasn't at anything. We didn't know if he was going to be out then or the next week, and just happened sort of on a Sunday night. You knew some of the talk about some of the folks out there. Basically, it was the same list as what would have been happening in 2019 with a couple of different options on it. And so, and that kind of the information sort of rolled out day by day, we'd hear Jeff Monken, we'd hear some other guy, we'd hear this is a possibility. Brian Johnson, the CU at Florida, his name popped up. And he actually did get an interview and all that. But, all those candidates, whereas some people, some sites and some outlets, I'm not talking about the South Carolina market, I'm talking about general in our business. They'll throw out a hot board that's, 35 people long. And then you start hearing about who's really in it and who's not. I feel pretty comfortable that the candidates we've mentioned are the candidates. Now, could somebody else pop up? Yeah, I had a guy call me connected with the agent community yesterday that mentioned John Thompson III, the former Georgetown coach. I had reached out to Carolina about the job. I don't think the Gamecocks are interested. And, I didn't really put that out just because, fans have a tendency, especially if he's not going to be considered, because fans have a tendency to go, no. And they think well, if this is the first name, then there's something to it, and that's not always the case. The first new name, but I think that's kind of what happened. And here we're 48 hours into it. I think we all know Bob Ritchie's in the mix. I think we know Sean Miller's in the mix. I know a lot of people would like for that to happen. I don't know if it will. We know Matt McMahon from Murray State, Dennis Gates from Cleveland State, Richie McKay from Liberty, who used to be at Oregon State and New Mexico. I think I've got everybody off the top of my head. Oh, Lamont Paris from Chattanooga.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically, you have a lot of mid-majors, and then you got Sean Miller. And I have heard through the grapevine that there could be another guy that's a bigger name out there. And also a lot of these teams too, where these guys are coached, are in postseason tournaments right now as well. So, I can give you some details about behind the scenes. What I'm hearing on Carolina's end is that I don't want to say there's a mandate. There's a mandate to go hire the best coach you possibly can. But I think some of the movers and shakers around South Carolina are they want to go make a splash, and the direct quote I got was, we want to look like an SEC team or SEC program, or SEC athletic department, I guess. And if you look around the SEC in basketball, lots of big name hires over the years. Everybody from Rick Barnes to Musselman to Buzz Williams at Texas A&M. Jerry Stackhouse certainly is a big name at Vandy. Those things have been happening. Will Wade was, I think, the best mid-major. He took LSU. And so I don't know. So if you're Ray Tanner and Chance Miller, you do have, I think, some folks in your corner to go make a big-time quote-unquote splash hire. Outside of Sean Miller, though, I don't have any names that would indicate, have the wow factor right now. Although I do really like just about everybody on that mid-major list. I think they're all really good coaches.
Steve Spurrier's long said coaching is all about timing, JC. If Rick Barnes was available right now, it'd be a no-brainer if you're South Carolina or something like that. So I say that let's talk about Sean Miller. I did myself a favor last night. I went back and read for probably 30 minutes every outlet, every piece of information that I could find in the last 5 years pertaining to Sean Miller and the allegations against him and the Arizona basketball program tied to the FBI investigation and pretty much everything else. And I will just say that my feeling on that, JC, it makes me very uncomfortable personally at this point in time, unless there is an entire other book of information that I don't have access to, which generally there is. I don't like it right now on the surface. Now, if Coach Tanner circled Sean Miller and hired Sean Miller, that would sway my opinion. I am different from many people because, unlike a lot of the people out there who can't wait to get on social media and message boards, I have faith in Coach Tanner for a lot of different reasons. I've known him a long time, and I think he's going to do a great job with this hire. The one thing I know about Coach Tanner is, JC, and you know this, he is not hiring somebody that's going to put South Carolina in the thick of a fire they don't want to be in. He'll resign before he is forced to do that. That's not Coach Tanner. That being said, the information, it's all public. We know what happened, but I had to go back and kind of recap the audio, the $100,000 and all this stuff. And it makes me really uncomfortable, JC. Should it? Should people be uncomfortable? Do you feel differently?
I feel like Ray Tanner and Chance Miller and the folks in the athletic department will do their due diligence. And I do think that's going to play a factor. I don't think it's as much of a factor as maybe some folks think, given the, how do I say this, climate in college basketball in the SEC right now. There's a big difference now between what you can do and what you can't do with NIL and things like that. And some of the stuff that happens with the SEC in basketball recruiting, you almost say, hey, you need to get a guy that knows how to navigate the system. I mean, I don't know you know, I know those allegations were serious, and I know he could get the show calls. If he gets the show calls, that's gonna change the equation too. But you know, we're living in a time where, you know, Bruce Pearl got hired at Auburn and then got in trouble again at Auburn and stayed. I guess they threw Chuck Person to the wolves for that one. And you know, you kind of look at what was happening at LSU, and it just seems like, well, you know, that's how these teams do it, and all that. And I also think with NIL now, you're going to see less and less behind the scenes stuff, and it's going to be more open and out front in the SEC. So that would be my take on it. If you're just looking at it strictly from the standpoint of, okay, who can navigate this system that no other coach has been able to do consistently at South Carolina in men's basketball, the recruiting, I think you maybe, you know, look into all the stuff that happened, but it's a little more minimized than maybe would have been if we were in a different era. We didn't have NIL and stuff like that at this point. Yeah, I'm with you. You know, it seems uncomfortable, but the whole thing these days to me, JB, is uncomfortable. You know, the NIL thing, the money, the fact that a recruit was getting $8 million the other day. I was like, that's uncomfortable for me, and it's almost hard to even talk about, you know, NIL deals and stuff, just because we're so accustomed to going, that's against the rules. That's against the rules. And especially in this state where the rules are always a big topic, right? And I think that it's just a matter of us refocusing a little bit. And then, of course, you know, there's certain lines you still do not cross. And, you know, you have to make sure that, you know, Sean Miller himself being involved isn't going to blow up in your face with some sort of show calls or something like that.
Yeah.
Does that climate influence your view of the mid-major list that we just went over? Because to me, some of the guys on that list are guys who, at least I perceive to be able to attack the portal and attack the way the climate is, and others, like a Bob Ritchie, I don't think would fare as well. I like Bob, but that's my question to you. If it's not Sean Miller, does the mid-major list in your eyes separate anywhere with guys who can or might succeed better in the current climate?
Well, you know, I sort of look at the job that Paris at Chattanooga did in the portal, because I do think the portal is important.
Mm-hmm.
I think that in this sport, college basketball in particular, it's going to be a free-for-all just about every offseason, right? And so you need a guy like that. Chris Beard, who's at Texas now, you know, one of the reasons he took Texas Tech to the championship game was because he was good at piecing it together through the portal. And that's even before we had instant eligibility. So there are players out there, you know, that you can go get. Now, would Sean Miller, with his vast connections to just about every top recruit in the country, that fare a little better than a mid-major? Probably. But, you know, I like what Paris has done in Chattanooga with the transfers. I think Bob Ritchie, everybody compares him to a Shane Beamer type of hire, right? And I agree to a certain extent in terms of they're both young, both enthusiastic, both passionate about the South Carolina job. And I think Bob has done a great job at Furman, don't get me wrong. But you look at it, and if you're, you know, wanting to get players, you know, he's probably, you know, able to do it. He probably knows a lot of people around the state, but he hasn't done it. He's never coached at the high major level. And so that would be a hire that would come with risks. I know he's well liked, though. I know he's well liked. Now, Dennis Gates from Cleveland State is a guy that's winning at Cleveland State. They didn't make the tournament this year, but he was part of that Leonard Hamilton Florida State build for 8 years, you know, down there. Lamont Paris, before he came to Chattanooga, coached for Bo Ryan and Greg Gard, or whatever his name is, at Wisconsin. And that's Wisconsin's like a more with less type of program across the board. So, you know, I really like those backgrounds as well. Richie McKay has been kind of a journeyman, but his style of play is unique, as we all know, from Liberty to Gamecocks by 15 in the opener last year. You know, that would be one I would kind of scratch my head about a little bit, to be honest, just because I don't like guys that have not, that haven't been successful places like Oregon State and New Mexico, and then they kind of find themselves at a mid-major, and then most of the time when they bounce back, things don't go all that well. And I'd feel the same way probably about Tommy Amaker at Harvard. Even though he's a heck of a coach, you look at what he did at Seton Hall in Michigan. It wasn't all that good. He's kind of found himself at Harvard, kind of like what's that? Is that Dead? No, it's not that. It's what's that movie? Anyway,
the quarterback movie.
No, where they went to Harvard with Ben Affleck and his buddy.
Yeah,
Robin Williams. Good Will Hunting. Yeah.
Goodwill, yeah.
Tommy Amaker's like Good Will Hunting. He's at Harvard. He's found himself at Harvard of all places. Harvard. But I would kind of feel the same way about those guys. So that's the thing. And I'm looking here. I'll tell you, Earl Grant's name has not come up. Some people that know Earl just don't think he'd leave after a year.
No.
Nico Medved, I don't know either.
All right. Well, let me get to the Medved stuff. He has just signed a new deal with Colorado State that's going to take him through the 28-29 season. And if you were to go get Nico Medved, you're talking about almost a $4 million buyout there, JC. And Nico Medved is, from what I've heard, very interested in staying more in the Midwest. I think he's from Minnesota.
He's a Colorado State grad.
Yeah. But he's from like Minnesota or something, right? Or he's already coached up there or something.
He was at Minnesota before he came firm, and he was an assistant, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And then he was at Drake for a year. He's from Minneapolis, as you mentioned. His alma mater on his Wikipedia page is listed alma mater as University of Minnesota. So, I mean, maybe he did get an undergrad degree at Colorado State or something. I don't know. Sometimes Wikipedia is less than truthful. But he was at Colorado State in Fort Collins previously for 7 years. He actually Minnesota, Colorado State, and then bounced to Furman, Drake, and then back at CSU. So I feel the same. I think a Big Ten job is kind of where that's his destination, and he hasn't really stayed anywhere all that long. I mean, he was at Furman for 4, then Drake 1, and now it's his 4th at Colorado State. He's got it rolling. So we'll see sort of what happens.
Let me pepper you with a few questions here. Yes or no on these two. Is from your just to be clear, from the information that you have, is South Carolina interested in Sean Miller? Yes or no?
Yes.
Is Sean Miller interested, as far as you know, in South Carolina?
As far as I know, yes. Yeah, and because I've talked to, there's just a certain amount of buzz, and then you look at kind of what I hear. And we hear, and then you match it with what people like Seth Davis from The Athletic are hearing.
Yep.
And Sean Miller's name's been connected to this job. I mean, I confirmed it pretty good on Saturday that if it opened, then South Carolina would that would be a name. That would be a name. So
all right. So let me I see, because we hear this a lot. And Darren, if we roll through the top of the hour, it's okay.
Yep.
But I see Jamie's comment here in the Share Healthcare chat lines, and I want to read it because I do feel it's a good comment, and I feel like this is worthy of explaining the different scenarios in which this could come. So let me read it here. It needs to be a Grand Slam hire, can't be a mid-major, or the fan base won't support. This fan base deserves something to get behind, which clearly you're correct about that, but it can't be a mid-major or the fan base won't support. So I could throw out a couple of scenarios, JC. Like if you hired Sean Miller, there's going to be a lot of people that support that because of his success. There's going to be a lot of people that don't support it because of what he has been tied to. All right. So that's one example. Let me put that on the left side here. Let me go to another extreme. BJ Mackey, who is, if he hasn't already, he's going to speak with Coach Tanner. And I don't think that BJ Mackey is going to be the hire, but let's just be honest here. BJ Mackey was the head coach at South Carolina. There's a ton of people who would support him because he is like the chosen son of Gamecock basketball. Everybody loves BJ Mackey. You know him personally, JC. I know him decently personally. I've spoken numerous times over the years. He is an outstanding person, and himself and his son gave everything they had to the University of South Carolina. His jersey hangs in the rafters. Okay, you could probably name it BJ Mackey Floor if you wanted to. So there'd be a lot of people that would support BJ because of their love of BJ the player. But there'd also probably be a lot of people that don't support BJ for all of the reasons you listed just a moment ago. Is he, are some of these coaches ready for this? Have they done it? Can they get into the battles with these, not just SEC guys? I get it. The SEC has come a long way and it's an elite league in basketball, but you're battling everybody for top players. I mean, Frank battles Xavier. He battled Xavier for Bryce Lindsey, who just decommitted. I mean, you're recruiting much more nationally than pretty much any other sport in basketball. So you're not just competing against your league programs when you're like you do in football or maybe baseball. Basketball kids come from everywhere. So if you haven't been in those wars, it's probably going to be tough to find your way in them sooner than later. So I give you those. I'm rambling on here, but I give you those two examples to ask this one question. Of the candidate pool we have now, is there one name where, as it stands today, we would say, oh, everybody would be ecstatic about that guy?
No. But that's, look, around here, we have this issue. And I knew it was going to – I was sitting there during the Spurrier era, right, guys? And I'm like, Tanner was still coaching baseball. I think he had just become the athletic director. Maybe it's 2013. I'm like, well, you got Frank Martin building the basketball program. You got Don Staley at women's. Ray just handed it off to Chad Holbrook. And I'm looking and I'm thinking, well, we've had basketball searches around here where, mid-major, it ended up being a mid-major hire after a lengthy process and it failed. Or there's a surprisingly good hire like Frank Martin at the time was. I mean, that was a big-time hire. When Eric Hyman made it. You have some other name hires you've made with this program with Dave Odom. Eddie Fogler was a fantastic hire after Bobby Crimmins pulled a Bobby Crimmins, right? Mm-hmm. In football, though, in really the whole McGee era, because even that Odom search that ended up with Dave Odom, he went after Tubby Smith and almost had him. Almost pulled him from Kentucky. He went after Jim Calhoun and almost pulled him from Connecticut. Yeah. And then they landed on over Crimmins at the end. Still don't know that was the right move to make. But especially when Greg Marshall was sitting at Winthrop. Then in football, I knew it was going to be an issue because you're talking about through Lou Holtz and Steve Spurrier, there being zero coaching changes. Or one coach change in 15 years, and it ended up with Steve Spurrier. 2 and 20 ended up with Holtz and Spurrier. And I was concerned, and I think subconsciously this fan base, that's become the expectation. Consciously or subconsciously, those are the only unifying type of hires. So even with a Sean Miller, I don't think everybody's going to be happy with it. And all that. But I'll tell you this, there's not, outside of convincing Rick Pitino to leave Iona, which I think would be the one guy that everybody would be like, oh, yeah, that's big time. I don't think there's anybody out there. So, and I don't think this. I don't believe that the fan base should hamstring their – I mean, I just – if you're a fan and you don't show up because you don't like a hire and you're not willing to even give the guy a chance because of where he came from, that's sad. In my opinion. I mean, and look, he starts losing and stuff like that. Fine. I mean, nobody wants you to watch losing basketball, but if most people are getting what they wanted, which was a new basketball coach. So, it's probably time to, get behind whoever the hire is. And honest God, I'd hope that, because we've got COVID sort of in the rearview mirror, so to speak, a little bit, I would hope that the crowds for the new basketball coach are a lot better than most of the ones for Shane Beamer this past year, quite frankly, in football. So I would hope that this fan base isn't to the point of, show me. And then, that can get a coaching career at a school off to a horrible start and in a hole in a hurry when you have extended apathy, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
1 o'clock. We are right on time, Darren, on a Wednesday afternoon. So we will step aside and take a timeout. When we return, we'll continue the hoops conversation. We will discuss some Carolina football. Marcus Satterfield has already met with the media. Clayton White is meeting with the media right now. Some interesting comments from both of them as spring practice is underway in Columbia, day 2 up there, if you want to call it that. So everybody hang tight. The owner of the BigSpur.com, JC Shurburtt, will rejoin us on the other side of the break. Right here in our backyard is Motley Rice LLC, a law firm that hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for South Carolinians who were injured while traveling by plane or bus, harmed by medical drugs and devices, or burdened by dangerous auto recalls, including Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. We are honored to have Motley Rice as a sponsor for the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work, and 2 others you probably don't think much about. Stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Lowcountry. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it. Let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Clamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the National Anthem.
JB Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online.
right, final hour, Wednesday afternoon here on the JB and Goldwater show. Darren, JB, and JC Shurburtt with the Big Spur joining us for who knows as long as he wants to. Make sure you downloaded our app, JB and Goldwater app. It's free. You can get some pretty cool vintage brand gear there if you're a Carolina fan or a Clemson fan or a North Carolina fan or a Duke fan or an Alabama fan or a fan of the Kansas City Chiefs or the Packers or the Braves or Michael Jordan. Whoever you pull for, whatever you like, it's there. Vintage brand. It's right there on the front of the app. You can even get 30% off right now with March Madness. So make sure you've downloaded our app and check out Vintage Brand, our apparel partner here on the JB and Goldwater show. Make sure you follow us on social media as well at JB and Goldwater. The All-American women's teams are out, and this shouldn't be surprising to anybody that Aaliyah Boston is on it. She is joined by Iowa's Caitlin Clark, Baylor's Nalissa Smith, Michigan's Naz Hillman, Stanford's Haley Jones, and Ryan Howard from Kentucky. Ryan Howard is now a 3-time AP All-American, and she joins an incredible list of players, including Baylor's Brittany Griner, Tennessee's Shamiqua Holdsclaw, Duke's Elena Baird, Courtney Parrish from Oklahoma, who has the most double-doubles ever in his recorded in history and consecutively, UConn's Brianna Stewart and Maya Moore, and also Oregon's Sabrina Ionescu. Next year, if Aaliyah Boston is named an All-American, she will join that list alongside Asia Wilson as well, who is also on it. So it would be South Carolina and UConn, the only programs in college basketball history with multiple players named 3-time All-Americans, which would be unbelievable. All right, so congratulations to the first teamers on the ladies' side. All right, JC, speaking of players, we get the news today that Bryce Lindsey has decommitted from the Gamecock basketball program. That's not shocking. There was probably going to be some attrition here. We have had some reports recently that, maybe Gigi Jackson was committed to Frank in Carolina after his official visit, which was the LSU weekend. I don't think that Gigi has really confirmed that, but there are reports out there that he was. I don't know whether he was or wasn't. The reality of it is it's unlikely at this point in time that those two gems of your class, as it stands today, are going to be a part of it. That could change tomorrow with the new hire. It could change next week. We don't know the answer to that. But what I'm getting at here, JC, is I have seen a little bit the last 24 hours or so, fans a little bit more vocal on, well, maybe we should have hung on to Frank Martin. Look, I don't think any of us are going to know what the real answer is until they start playing basketball again underneath a new coach, and we give this guy a little bit of time to figure out what it might look like underneath. I don't think any of us know that answer, okay? But I would say this. There's probably a percentage of people who thought the right move was get rid of him, and I'm not saying they were right or wrong, but might be having some buyer's remorse because they didn't understand when change happens, more change happens. And then you see more change and you go, well, maybe that wasn't the right thing to do. So it's all kind of part of the process, JC and Coach Tanner. I read the story this morning from Michael Lanana with the state newspaper. The players weren't happy about this. Didn't expect them to be. But Coach Tanner's going to have to piece it back together. And I think people need to understand this is just probably going to take a little bit of time.
Oh, absolutely. And it's awfully tempting when you start talking about players like, Gigi Jackson possibly coming and some other guys maybe joining him in the portal or otherwise. So it's, that's kind of one of those fear of missing out kind of thing, I think. And it really is, it really was a judgment call, I think, when you factored in all those factors. I think a lot of times you can't really run an athletic department and, handle coaches and directions of programs and all those big picture things that ADs have to do by like what pops up in the moment. You really have to make a thorough evaluation. And I just think that, 2 postseasons in 10 years, even though, it probably would have had 3 after 2020, that's just not that's just not what needed to happen. That's not progressing. That's being stuck. And I think at the end of the day, that's what the decision was made. I'm not saying that I completely agree with it. I'm not saying that I can't see the side of it to where, Frank Martin's a pretty good coach. The program's close. You add a couple of pieces and cycle back up. Because I laid out all those scenarios prior to this happening. Of course, my scenario included a trip to the NIT and winning at least one game in the SEC tournament. But I'm not just sitting here going, "Yay, Ray!" Yay, Gamecocks for making this move. I think it's a very tough call. And in my opinion, that call was made not based on this year, other than, hey, if you get back to the NCAA tournament this season, then that's what we want. Other than it being about big picture postseason appearances and things like that. But and for Frank Martin, I think this may be one of the best things that's happened to him. I don't know that he was all that fired up and other than wanting to win and being competitive and really loving living here. And I think the job, there were some things about it that was very surprising. That I think with any coach that comes in here, they're gonna need to change it up a little bit, right? In men's basketball. I think he'll go on and coach someplace else. I don't know where that'll be, but I'm sure he'll be fine. I mean, he's too good of a coach too. So there you go. I mean, that's my whole thing about it. Like I said, I'm not. I think with all the talk about the players, and this talk was legit. I think that you can really. It's really tempting to sit there and go, you sure? But
sure.
As I've said many times, basketball is so transitional roster-wise, and now you've got the portal and it's wide open. It's going to be even worse. I don't know, better, worse, whatever. But just like in football, it gives you an opportunity to go get some pieces.
It's a clean slate.
And you get some pieces to put in place, and whoever comes in, maybe they hit the spot and honest on good next year. Who knows? I don't think there were very high expectations for this year's team having 9 new players, and you saw they were actually pretty respectable.
That's where I got with this whole thing. I mean, do I think it was the right move? I mean, I'm not sold either way completely, but I got by the end of the season to the point of this is best for Frank Martin and this is best for the school. I think it's best for both, and both can kind of get a fresh start and a clean slate and clear their heads a little bit. And that to me was what tipped it over the edge in the last couple of weeks of the season in my head.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. And to JC's point earlier, this is something, and Darren, we talked about this, and you well know this. We've been talking about it for 2 years. I mean, this is something that the administration has been preparing for. Mm-hmm. They haven't been preparing for it in anticipation necessarily of firing Frank Martin, but they've been preparing for it knowing that it was a legitimate possibility. And that was based on, and JC, I'm this is going to sound like I'm correcting you here, although you threw out the correct information. I am not correcting you. I'm just stating what I believe in this, and the fact that it has nothing to do with 2-10. It has everything to do with 0-5, which is since the Final Four run.
Yeah,
they haven't done anything with it.
The trend line, yeah.
I mean,
it's just not been good.
Coach Tanner is not stupid. It takes time to do things. He understands this university and the situations that it has been in different sports and stuff like that. He's going to give coaches their due time to get things going. And I think what's interesting in this situation too, JC, is that they didn't get worse this year. Like, they actually got better, but they still missed the ultimate destination, which is the NCAA tournament. And that is why they're, if we would have seen a 12-20 basketball team, it would be a very large consensus of it's time to move on. Mm-hmm. But we saw a team that won 12 more games than they did last year, and they finished at 500 in the SEC with 6 new players. So there is a story to sell there to move forward in its current state. But obviously, Coach Tanner did not think so.
Well, and I feel like this too. I don't think this one is what ultimately cost him. I think that it was 2 years ago, and I cannot tell you 100% that had the SEC tournament not gotten canceled 2 years ago, and the Gamecocks had gone in there and gone one and done, and then lost in the NIT, that Frank Martin would still be there after that. I mean, I don't know that he wouldn't, but I can't honestly sit there and tell you that those were the expectations for that basketball team. And that basketball team, people talk about Frank not being able to get players all you want, but when you lose to Stetson and you lose to Boston U and you choke at a bad Vanderbilt team at the end of the year, and you can't get over the hump against Northern Iowa early, into these net rankings selection bonanza, whatever you want to call it, those are going to cost you. And I didn't think the Coastal loss, when you kind of broke it down, cost them this year. I don't think they were close enough with quality wins. But South Carolina that year, if you remember, they were 18-13. You know, if those 4 games turn into W's, they're 22-9, probably a 5 or maybe a 6 seed somewhere, you know, or something like that, because they had the road win at Virginia and Clemson and a win over Kentucky and a win at Arkansas. And that's kind of the team, because it was the second straight year where unexplained, or third straight year really, where unexplained non-conference losses diminished the resume at the end. And I think there was some frustration there about the program being stuck, but nobody got fired when the pandemic hit, obviously. Last year, you know what happened. There was a COVID year. There was a move trying to be made. A move to be made. It didn't happen. And with Frank, I'm willing to throw out the COVID year, but it's not. I don't think it's the COVID year thing. I think it's the team 2 years ago that was, by all accounts, good enough, but just these bizarre losses and not showing up at the right time is what hurt him. And so, yeah, when you look at this year in a vacuum, it was a heck of a job getting the program back to that mediocre level, right? the good enough, better than they've been level, but still not good enough. But I tend to, you know, if Frank's gonna, or everybody's gonna decide to just throw out last year, the COVID year, I'm willing to do it, but I'm also looking at it like, okay, if it's not going to count, it's not going to count. If it's not going to count, then you're not gonna be able to count. You're not gonna be able to count a 12-game improvement. You know, you're basically at the same spot you were when the world stopped 2 years ago. And that's so fair. I think that's what it was. I think that's kind of what it was. It wasn't. I don't think it was this team that got him, that did him in. I think it's that team 2 years ago, and just because of situations beyond people's control, they're just now taking care of it. You know, in my opinion.
That's a great point, and I totally agree with it, JC. Absolutely agree with it, and that kind of fits the Darren, what we talked about a few days ago when I put up that poll question. Is it headed in the right direction, the wrong direction, or is it stuck in neutral? And if you're willing to give up the COVID year last year, which I absolutely am. Again, my reference point is Kentucky. They won 9 games last season. Anybody ever seen Kentucky win 9 games before? I mean, COVID did decimate programs. That is a fact.
Duke didn't make it. You know,
no,
Duke didn't.
Exactly.
You know.
It is not an excuse. People that say that is an excuse, I'm sorry, but you're an idiot. You just are. Like, that is a legitimate fact. It decimated certain programs. Carolina was one of those. To your point, JC, you're spot on, because 2 years ago they won 18 games, and this year they won 18 games, and they're stuck in neutral. Their conference record basically is identical. Weren't they 10-8 in the league 2 years ago, and 9-9 this year?
Yeah, they've gone. Yeah,
and not just stuck in neutral on the floor, but emotionally for the people who are involved in this, stuck in neutral there too, just spinning around. I mean, it's.
I agree, Darren.
I told Jamie, I don't know if he got this text from me. Gosh, it was after the Coastal Carolina loss, and I said, man, I'm happy with the way the football season ended, but it was really kind of similar to some recent seasons. And I was like, we've watched the same season in baseball now a couple times, and we're watching the same season in basketball. It's like Groundhog Day. I mean, it really was. And that's what I mean. Basketball was especially tough because you could almost predict it. You know, this team's going to win enough and do enough good things to get people excited for games. And then ultimately they're not going to be good enough, though, to get to the dance or whatever. And, you know, it gets murky when it's like that because, you know, everybody that talks about the historical average of the program, since they've been in the SEC. Frank Martin did better than anybody else, winning games in the league consistently, no matter how good or bad the league was. And, South Carolina, I think Dave Odom ever had a season above 500 in the SEC.
He did not.
Horn had a 10-6 record his first year and won the division. There were divisions then. And the league was so weak, they still didn't even get in the tournament with 21 wins. Other than that, no winning seasons in the league. And Ogler had 2 winning seasons in the league his entire time at South Carolina. It's been and of course there's Steve Newton. It's been tough in this league for this program, and results are better. But, then again, like I said, I don't think you're making decisions based on that. I think, and you hit the nail on the head, JB, that it's not 2 for 10, it's 0 for 5. And I think that's that 5 years passes, it's kind of, time to make a move.
Yeah. All right. I do want to move to some football with you, JC, and try to touch on some baseball if we can. By the way, we'll let Mark do what he does, but probably some more unfortunate news coming soon from the Carolina baseball program.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Really good weekend though.
Great weekend.
Beat
but,
Texas.
they just continue to battle the bug up there. That's for sure. Before we get there, though, let's squash this final bug with speaking of bugs with the basketball program, and I know that Darren agrees, and I know that JC agrees, and I agree with both of you. We've all done this time and time again, but let's make sure that you can't do it because not everybody cares and everybody has phones, so they're going to say what they want. But let's just do what we can to keep the reason why Frank Martin is no longer the head coach at South Carolina is because of the record. It is not sideline antics. It is not media, the way he treats somebody. It has nothing to do with that. He's done the same thing for years. Nobody cared when he went to the Final Four. If you choke a guy, you throw a desk in his face, you spit on your players, you things like that. Okay, you got a little bit of an issue there. Yelling at them, give me a break. Let's get over it. And you can't recruit because players see that and they don't want to play for him. Well, that's not true. I mean, the best player in the country, regardless what the relationship is like, was set to play for him. He didn't have to. He could play at Duke or North Carolina or anywhere he wants to go, and he was willing to go through that. And PJ did it. PJ was a 5-star. Remember that? Sindarius was a 4-star. I mean, he did get guys. What you see on the court, nobody cares about that stuff when you're winning. I'll be honest with you, JC. I'd rather Frank chew me out like that than the way that Spurrier did some things to some players. Well, you just not couldn't catch the ball. We lost because you couldn't catch the ball today. That's why we lost.
Yeah.
I'd rather you just chew me out on the sideline and tell me I suck.
Right.
Let's get off of that. And if you're sitting around the dinner table and your buddy tells you, well, people got tired of listening to him yell on the sidelines, that is not why he got fired. I promise you'd still be coaching if they were dancing at South Carolina. So with football, though, they're now practicing, JC.
Mm-hmm.
I want to read a quote from you today. Marcus Satterfield asked about naming a starting QB, and he said, "It'll be soon."
Really, really soon.
It's March. So I guess Spencer Rattler's going to be the quarterback in South Carolina. That's good to know.
No.
But in addition to that, what actually really caught my attention today, JC, and everybody is going, here we go again, right? Everybody's going to continue to question Marcus Satterfield, and I'm okay with that till we see how much better they are, if they're better offensively. But he said today a couple things. One, yeah, we figured out after the bowl game, probably should have had a package in there all year to carry on Joyner. Oh yeah, did you figure that out? And then number two was, hey, look, I've learned a lot. And he went on to say he's learned how to communicate better, and he's accepting other ideas and things of that nature. These are things you and I have heard behind the scenes for a few months. So it kind of correlates with that. And so that is from the offensive coordinator who's been heavily scrutinized for a while now, at least since September.
Yeah, it's called growth. Professional growth, my friends. But, look, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I've said this before about letting it play out, and I'm willing to do that. I think that there's some excitement, around the program for the first time in a long time about what can happen at the quarterback position and some of the other skill spots, and it's just a different. I mean, I still maintain they had more players last year than to be as bad as they were at times. And I think you can see that because there's times where they went up and down the field and were pretty good, right? Mm-hmm. I think the consistency there has to be better. And but I like what I heard. I also will tell you I liked what I heard about Marcus Satterfield, his offense on up to the season starting. I was kind of surprised that things look like they did. But when you talk about it, okay, so let's just say, for example, that his system, the system they're trying to run is a little bit tricky to get down and stuff like that. Well, time helps that. Reps help that. They can get the linemen on the same page. And you started seeing some of that in the bowl, but the bowl game you also kind of saw Marcus Satterfield's creativity to the max. And he is a guy that has, if you don't want to run it inside the 5-yard line against Tennessee in a game where they're going up and down the field on you. But it was still a creative trick play, where the Jordan Birch pass happened. There's some things he does.
Come on, man. That was good.
That are creative. Yeah, it was very creative, And
that's the day I got a new TV. Threw a hammer through mine.
Yeah, but I hated the play call, okay? But I love the actual play and things like that. So there's things about him to like, but you got to put it all together, and it's good. There's expectations this year of a massive improvement, and you just got to hope he gets it, and you see what happens from there.
There's on the field, there's not a ton to discuss at this point in time, so we're not going to really spin our wheels with all of this. I mean, I know your staff has been out there the last couple of days checking things out, but if anybody can give me a real feel for how the season is going to go based on 6 periods of about 20 minutes of spring football, then you need to also buy my next lottery ticket. But Clayton White also today did say he was asked about other jobs, JC. We had heard numerous times in the offseason that coaches on staff have been pursued, and Coach Beamer has said that. Shoot, Darren, I think there's my lingo. Shoot, I mean, dang.
Shoot,
dang, shoot. I mean, dadgummit. I'm like, Scotty, you're around Coach Spurrier too long when you were in school. Yeah. I mean, dang, shoot. But Clayton White said, asked today about it. He said, I don't care about all that. And the quote that caught me off guard, or not off guard, but caught my attention was, "This is the place to be." JC, and you don't hear that much from assistant coaches. First of all, props to Shane Beamer for making all of his guys available all the time. That's really cool, and we really appreciate that. But you often don't hear a defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, anybody like that stand up there. They'll usually say things like, "I'm not going to get into all that. We're not going to talk about other job opportunities." He says, "This is the place to be." JC, what does that tell you about Clayton White?
It's just part of the culture, that is being built here, and the fact that I think, by and large, and I'm not saying that, in any organization, there's always going to be, people that aren't thrilled to go walk in the building every day, people that are kind of at the place in their lives where, maybe they need a new start, or maybe some things don't go quite as well professionally. And so there's oftentimes in college football staffs, for what I can gather, when you really start talking to people, they're unhappy folks. But I think by and large, with Beamer, most people are happy, with the environment. And I think Clayton White's probably happy because he's got to fix some stuff on that defense, and he didn't really catch any heat last year because they were so bad on offense. He didn't catch any heat. So maybe that's why he's loving it. but no, I think they all feel this staff since the day they got there. They've all felt like, at South Carolina, they can get it back to a big level. And I think that starts with the head coach who, embraces the place. And you can tell that he does. I mean, Will Muschamp loved South Carolina, loved being there. Or the end, he probably didn't live that much, but he wasn't a guy that would downplay his program and all that. But you always sort of knew Muschamp was when he coached for Nick Saban. He was, he's kind of part of that Saban coaching tree and played at Georgia or whatever. I'm not saying he was an outsider. He just, he didn't embrace it. One of the things Spurrier did when he got here, I thought that was good because, like Muschamp, I mean, he's not really synonymous, or wasn't really synonymous with South Carolina football, college football maybe. But is he really started to embrace some of the traditions? They got paint on the stadium to where it looked like the Gamecocks played there. He's let's put the records up. That's all Steve Spurrier. He did the same thing when he took over Florida. Those signs that say "This is the swamp" and all that. Yeah. It's a weird thing about him. Like, let's get shoot. Let's paint the shoot. Don't we need to paint the ramps here? Put people's name up on it. We need to honor what little history we have. ACC champions up on the side of the stadium. I mean, all that, and I think Shane Beamer has that approach, but almost to the nth degree because he's a little younger and a little more social media friendly and things like that, and you get that outward embrace. But I also know that inside the building, there's a lot of internal embrace of, hey, this can be special. And I think when you end the season like Carolina did, the win over UNC as an underdog, I guess 12-point underdog, weren't they? And recruiting still going well, and things are really starting, to move in the right direction. Then it becomes easier and easier to embrace that culture, I guess, is the buzzword for it.
How about any? I'm not sure that I've seen the question asked yet, but any difference that you're aware of to this point, JC, and how this spring will be handled by Shane as opposed to last year? You learn a lot when you're a head coach. We talked to G.A. Mangus, remember, Darren, and he said he'll never learn more than he's going to learn in this first year as a head coach. I guess this is more of a question for Shane, but we haven't had a chance to ask him, but how he is approaching spring practice this go around as opposed to how he did last year with really a very fresh staff. He had kind of really just put it all in place before they got on the field.
Yeah. I mean, it is one of those things where as far as change goes, but because he's so consistent and because, it sort of is what it is. Luke Day is a very consistent guy, but I did read an article, where he was Hale McGranahan actually interviewed Luke Day, had like a 3-part. Way to go, Hale! He talked about building on to what they established last year, and it was like, well, we can do more things, and it's all about getting it from. I mean, he used the term being uncomfortable, right? You have to be uncomfortable to get to where you want to go, and then that you're comfortable, you're stalled. And so there's more to be done. And I think that if there's any change, it's more like, I would call it progress, and getting it, with the strength program, the focus and the everything being focused sort of on, all right. And Will Muschamp, this is a Muschamp quote, so people shouldn't get mad at me. So what, now what? Right? Muschamp used to say that. So what, now what? And then that's true. So what, now what? And that's change I see with the second year is that they're adding. There's a focus on adding to that and getting even better.
JC Shurburtt, 1:34 on a Wednesday afternoon from Chicago. Big Spur is pretty busy right now. The women's tournament set to kick off. The men's coaching search is in full gear. Spring practice is underway, and Carolina baseball just took 2 of 3 from the Texas Longhorns this past weekend. They beat the Running Rebels of Gardner Webb last night, and they will head to beautiful Knoxville, Tennessee, for a top 10 opponent this weekend in the Volunteers. JC, before we let you go, I gotta address this with you. This really has no business being part of our program, Darren, but this is one of those things that I have, for whatever reason, some fuel in the belly, the need to get it out, and JC's the perfect guy to get it out with.
Is this Eric Church related? Sounds like you're going a different direction.
No. It is South Carolina related, certainly. There is a small but loud, JC, section of this fan base that has nothing else to do with their lives, but bitch and moan about things that truly don't matter. And one of them is where the student section is at the baseball games. Oh, my sweet Jesus. Okay, first of all, you have one. All right.
Yeah, it's baseball.
Okay. That's number one. It is not tradition to have a student section at baseball games. How do I know this? Maybe because I've been around a while. Whatever reason, guys, I think we all know this, right? They found a way to win a lot of games for a lot of years at the Sarge and at Founders Park, including national championships, without a student section. So number one, the fact that you are given a section of free tickets, that's a nice feather in the cap. All right. That's a pretty good deal there. Number two, if you've ever been to any other ballpark, like any other ballpark, name one. Any other ballpark, period, the end. If you haven't, pull your head out of your ass and go look around a little bit, because you know where the students are at Ole Miss, one of the best atmospheres in the country? They're in the outfield. You know where they are at Mississippi State? You're not going to believe this, guys. They're in the outfield. You know where they are at Clemson? You know where they are at Georgia? They're in the outfield. Do you know where they are at Tennessee? They're way down and up high the first base line. Oh, my. It's a travesty. When I was in school, we weren't given tickets to baseball games. Luckily, I was on the list for every game, so I didn't have to worry about that, JC. But I don't recall having a student section for baseball games. So these people got to find something to do with themselves. I mean, this is absurd. I don't know how much you've seen of this. And I'll say this, and Darren, you're the father to a little girl, and so you're going to understand absolutely what I'm saying here. You know, if there's seats that aren't taken and kids want to move closer, I have no problem with that. Good. Move around the ballpark. Go support your team. But when you get a 20, 21, 22-year-old drunk college kids who are sitting behind a dugout and they're yelling F this and F that at the players on the opposing team, and then you're escorted out of your section because of that, and you're escorted out because people who buy the tickets, you know, that actually have to pay the money, are complaining because they don't want their little girl and their little boy to hear the F word every other sentence. Yeah, you're going to get escorted out of there, whether you're a 21-year-old college student or you're a 50-year-old male or you're a 16-year-old girl. They're not going to put up with that. So get over it and get over yourselves. So, JC, there's your next column on the Big Spur. Be happy you have a student section. And there's not a bad seat in Founders Park. If it was me, I'd put them all in left field. But they're not doing that. So hats off to the administration for even giving them a whole section on the home base, on the home dugout foul line.
Yeah, and look, as is always the case, there's two sides to every story. And
exactly.
You know, I think sometimes college kids, you know, we live in this world where you can push a narrative and there not be a whole lot of like truth. You know, it's like, oh, they kicked me out. Oh, that's terrible. You know, and it almost becomes like an Animal House kind of let's go toilet paper the administration building or something. Sometimes, damn man, you know, and so have I heard that time some security folks at Founders Park, this was last year, a little overzealous at times probably.
Sure.
But that happens, and you're right about the language, and you know, and look, man, maybe it is a good idea to put them in the outfield because that's where they are everywhere else in the league, and And at Clemson, I mean, and those they seem to be having a blast out there, man. It's like you sit there and watch those outfield crowds on TV. You're like, man, that looks like fun. What are they doing?
A party, man.
Exactly.
It's
Darren. Exactly right, Darren. That is too. If it was me, I wouldn't even want the students. I'd be like, don't give me the seats. I want to stand out here. And how many college baseball parks have y'all been in? Is it the point of being a student to heckle the outfielders? Like, that's the point.
Yeah, but
your job is to stand out there and yell at these guys. Like, not just sit in your my seat isn't right behind the dugout. Oh, because you can't yell F the head coach behind the visitor's dugout, you're upset. What are we doing? What world are we in? It's crazy.
Yeah,
have a beer and stand out in the outfield.
Yeah, but if you're going to be down there, just don't throw the F-bomb around. I mean, especially if there's kids.
Unbelievable.
I mean, that's not difficult.
No,
right?
look, some of these cats think that they're the only people that matter, and that's just not true. There is. You got kids that matter. There's adults that matter. There's grandparents in there. There's the parents of players. I mean, there's a lot of people in a college ballpark. This isn't 80,000 seat football stadiums. Like this is a baseball game. There's a different atmosphere, and you need to understand that. If you don't like it, don't go.
Yeah, I mean, and heckling's fine. I think you need heckling. I just don't think you need to just attack the person's character with F-bombs and things like that, because it's just like you have to understand there's kids around and stuff like that. And look, I'm not one of these. I'm not anti-bad language or anything. I understand things get said, but shoot, I freaking I would be hard pressed to think that if you get kicked out of a baseball game, you don't deserve to be kicked out.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Let's put it that way.
You earned it. You earned it.
Yeah, there's just
no
a time.
student section. There's no student section in any sport that I can think of that looks like they're having more fun than baseball outfields that are packed.
I know.
I mean, I went to one of the biggest student sections in the country when I was going to football games. So I've been in massive sections like that, and terrible student sections in basketball, which I think are better than student sections in football because of just the atmosphere and all. No one's having more fun than baseball. It's a party.
Yeah, totally agree, Darren. If it was me, I would round up the students. They call it the cockpit now in Columbia. I would round them up, and I'd say, we are going to line the right field wall, and we're just going to have a blast out here. That's what we're going to do. I mean, I don't know. I people complain about everything, and everybody has a way to do it now, so you have to see it, unfortunately, sometimes. But there's just a time and a place for things. And JC, to your point, I agree with you. Yeah, there are times where some of these folks that have that work facilities, they're a little overzealous with things, and you know what? They're told by their bosses to do that. Or does that mean that they're right? No. Hey, look, I agree. Like, if nobody is sitting in this section behind a dugout and it's the 4th or 5th inning and nobody has showed up, yeah, you should let people be able to fill in down there until they have a reason to not be there anymore. So I'm okay with that. But yeah. Man, every time you get on Twitter and you see all these doofuses tweeting to Coach Tanner about the student section, I'm like, you really think right now is the time to talk to him about the baseball student section? Oh, God. I mean, I just.
Well, yeah, sometimes in very small group, like as you said, not everybody. I'm not one of these people that's going to throw like an entire generation under the bus about this, but in college right now, they don't really like you said, they think there's a lot of grand self-importance, and really, not that it's not that important how they feel, what their feelings are like. So that's
exactly.
That's I don't. Did it hurt your feelings that you got kicked out of a baseball game after you F-bombed the head coach and you happened to Google his wife's name and you're talking about doing something horrible to her from the stand? I mean, that crosses some of the things I've heard that have been said out there cross the line of not only like, poor sportsmanship. I don't know. poor taste, lack of good upbringing, that kind of thing. But they cross into like this could maybe get you arrested kind of, and you're like, so if you're willing to go that far, if you're one of those people that's in that section going that far, then I don't really care about your feelings. I think that, I think you need to slow your dang roll quite a bit and stop complaining and take a look in the mirror.
Yeah, be happy you were given a ticket.
Yeah.
You didn't pay for it. It's yours. Hey, at the Sarge, one of the greatest atmospheres ever in college baseball, they didn't have a student section. I mean, they put some bleachers that you could, if you wanted to get a group of students together, you could go sit down there. It's where the old pickleball courts were, JC, down the first base line. You can go down there and have as much fun as you wanted to. I mean, I personally, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Georgia's got a up on the hill up there. They got a way up there for a fraternity house, and those dudes will sneak down the hill. I remember in 2008 when we were over there and got swept, all 1-run games. Carolina scored 6 runs in 3 games. They were all solo home runs. I don't know how I remember that. Harley Lael was the right fielder, and I'll let you run on this note, JC. And I remember this guy yelling at Harley left and right, and then it was something about Sarah Francis. And Harley turned around and looked at him. That was his girlfriend at the time, eventually his wife. And he goes, "Yeah, I said it. I'm going to be here all night, man." That was great. I'm like, see, you can't get away with that in here. But in the outfield, nobody's listening.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The outfield would be, wow, and I just I think an outfield heckling group would actually be good. Sometimes these days, these baseball players aren't as in the college level. They don't get as good. They're not as consistent as the pros, obviously, in the outfield. I think it's almost like missing a free throw or causing somebody to miss a field goal in football. If you're out there and there's a big line drive and you got to kind of get a bit, and people are just yelling at you on top of that, there could be an advantage.
Yeah,
in my opinion,
dude. If I was a student, I'd be hanging in the right field wall, South Carolina, or I'd be hanging over the bullpen wall in left center field.
Yeah,
just speaking of feelings, I'd be hurting all kinds of feelings out there in the bullpen. That's what the bullpens are for. So all right, JC, I think we've hit it all. I just had to slide that in there. So,
all right. Well, hey, we certainly fun today, boys, and looking forward to talking to you next week.
You got it, brother. Thank you.
Bye. Yes.
There you go, JC Shurburtt, owner of the BigSpur.com. Darren, if it's up to me, I'd just say we'll blow through this break. I don't really feel like taking one now with
it's 10 minutes.
10 minutes to go in our program. I will say it is amazing to see now that the new duo for Monday Night Football is Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. I think for about a total of $170 million is what they got him for, if I'm correct on that.
I saw the numbers yesterday. Aikman, and this surprises a lot of people, Aikman's getting more. The analysts, the major primetime analysts do generally make more than even the well-known play-by-play guys. And this is a good example of it if you're ever wondering again, because here come the two from Fox over to ESPN, and Aikman's getting a good bit more than Joe Buck is. But yeah, it's been rumored for a while. It's the best Monday night booth they've had in a long time.
Is this like rejuvenated? Is Monday Night Football quote back now with this?
I don't know. I don't know how many people watch or don't watch because of announcers. So it's always tough to gauge. There's always been hatred of Buck, but that has pulled back in recent years. I think they're fabulous. I mean, it's going to be more enjoyable for me. I know that. I mean, there's no question about that. It'll be more enjoyable for me. And then what happens at Fox? Joe Davis is probably going to be the number one baseball guy, and he deserves that. And Burkhart is probably going to be the number one play-by-play guy for football. But I'm enjoying this. By the way, Joe Buck no longer doing the World Series because of this. So there are implications for those of you who like or don't like Joe Buck.
I see. I love Joe Buck. He's my favorite, and he has been for a long time. And I just like his delivery. I like the way he does things. I like his podcast. I think he's sarcastic, and I love it. And, there's a slyness about him that I think is very, very unique. I just like it. I like all that. And I've always thought that him and Aikman together this is everybody. Hey, some people like the color red, some people like the color green. I thought they were outstanding, and I'm glad they're still together. My question is exactly what you just said. Like, so what else is he going to do? Is this it? He's just the Monday Night Football guy for ESPN now?
Yes, as far as I understand, it doesn't look like he'll be doing any baseball, although, if he really wants to, I'm sure that can change. But my understanding, based on just kind of following it on the fringe, is that this is a move that Joe Buck is making. Not going to do baseball anymore. But what you just said about his attitude, that it's spot on. I mean, he's got a real dry sense of humor to him. And if you understand that, then when you're listening to him, it actually brings out more of the enjoyment, because you hear it in the broadcast. And a lot of it stemmed from him letting his guard down basically in the booth because of two things. A, the pure hatred that was just flowing on social media, and B, when he had that health scare and was legitimately concerned that his career was over. After that, and there was a wedding or marriage disaster thing too. Once he was through all of that, he became a much freer person, and you can hear it. And I think it's made him even better than he was before.
Yeah, I really, really like him. And I hope that they find a way to expand his roles, Darren. Am I right about this? That like 4 years from now or 5 years from now, that ESPN is actually going to have a Super Bowl? Is that true?
I'm not sure if that's part of it. It might be ABC that has the Super Bowl.
Is it ABC? I swore it was ESPN. I saw. If you'll look into that,
I will. Or maybe I could be confusing that with baseball, because there could be some ABC on baseball on ABC.
Yeah, I don't know. I swore that I read a column in the last day or two, maybe the last week, or it doesn't matter. But read a column that basically said ESPN was anxious to get this move done sooner than later for a couple of reasons. One, I think, was a financial situation. The other was if they could bring Buck and Aikman over, they wanted to try to get him in place before they had their first Super Bowl on ESPN.
So I don't know which platform, but here's something from ESPN Front Row, the press website, basically, if you're unfamiliar with it. The landmark 10-year deal beginning in 2023 grants extensive rights to ESPN and ABC, including Super Bowls and more postseason games, the extension of Monday Night Football rights. So all of this is tied in. Hey, not only have we just signed a big deal, yes, we're going to have Super Bowls, but we're bringing in the best crew in the business to go do it. So yeah, you're spot on with it.
Right. Yeah. So there you go. Yes, guys, I know that ABC owns ESPN. I get that, but there's still a difference in whether the game's on ABC or whether it's on ESPN.
I think the Super Bowl would I think it would end up being on ABC, because that's a much, 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 much bigger audience and bigger platform.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. I just wonder if, you know how this works, and these guys kind of do what they want. You wonder if there's a push to say, nope, we're going to put it on ESPN so we can encourage more streaming or whatever it may be. I don't know. But.
Yeah. Or the other way around, the NFL saying, that's cool, we'll give it to you as long as you're putting it on network television.
Yeah. Or it's on both. Maybe it'll be on both.
Totally possible.
Who knows? The NFL might be bound to make a bunch of money by doing that. So, speaking of which, is Baker Mayfield, is his time done in Cleveland?
It sounds like he thinks it is.
Yeah.
Look,
what happened there?
JC was on here talking about emotions of people a little while ago, and some of the fans. He's got some emotions too. He needs to, take a breath, bud, and
dude,
and let's see, right?
Yeah, calm down.
I've heard enough of you.
Yeah, I agree. Well, because I saw something about it last night, and I didn't know what was going on, so I went to his Twitter page and I saw this whole statement. And I thought, dang, they released Baker Mayfield, and then and then I realized they didn't. So, yeah, that's kind of strange. I don't know. If you're Cleveland, I guess you're probably considering it now, considering he seems like he's checked out.
Well, it sounds like Deshaun Watson. That's a potential, at least, destination for him. So I think that was some of the background pushing Mayfield that way, that he's hearing about Deshaun Watson, and he's hearing all different sorts of things. And he's just, to me, seems like he's relatively emotionally fragile.
Yeah.
What it looked like this year, at least.
Can't be like that when you're a quarterback in the NFL.
No.
Got to find a way to let that stuff go. It is pouring outside. I have not received word yet, but we'll keep our eyes on it if the Citadel and Texas game will be canceled tonight. I do not believe that would be postponed. Texas has got to get back to Austin. They've got a 3-game series starting on Friday, which they would be traveling for tomorrow morning to return home. So the likelihood of them postponing this thing and playing tomorrow is unlikely if they can't play because of weather tonight at Riley Park. So we'll keep our eyes there. JT Daniels is set to visit Missouri. So the now still enrolled student at Georgia, but former quarterback, could stick around not only in the SEC, but in the SEC East by playing for Eli Drinkwitz in Columbia, Missouri, if that's what he chooses to do. There's a feeling out there that he might end up in Oregon at Oregon State, though. So we will see. I think he's visited a couple of other schools, or at least has a couple of other schools to visit. But Oregon State and Missouri seemingly right now are 2 options for JT Daniels. And then just a little bit ago, this is really interesting, Darren. I know we're about out of time, but maybe we can try to dabble in it tomorrow a little bit. Again, a reminder, tomorrow we're on the air at 10 a.m. until noon. Xavier has fired Travis Steele, their head basketball coach. They won last night in the NIT, and he's fired today.
Oh, I did not see that and was not aware of that. There's a lot of pressure. That's a big time job. And B, as I'm watching the game last night, I was thinking about you because, like I said, I am back. I had a good night. The only one I missed was Cleveland State had a lead in that game. I liked Cleveland State before the game. I just didn't play it before the game. It was +11 or +12. And then in the game, I jumped on Cleveland State to actually win the game. So I paid decent attention to that and had you in the back of my mind saying Xavier does not belong in the tournament. They can't win any games. I'm like, come on, just lose one more. But that somewhat surprises me. The timing of it all, the only way it doesn't is if they're saying we got to do it right now because we want a guy that everybody else wants.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Where did Pat Kelsey play?
There are Xavier ties in there. Did he play there?
I thought he played at Xavier, didn't he?
You know, another name I'd watch out for, and like I said, I wasn't aware that this even opened. The first name that jumps out to me, and maybe it's just because it's on the top of my mind right now, is Sean Miller. Xavier going after Sean Miller hard makes a lot of sense to me.
Well, it could be some
I
impact.
I don't know if that's even thrown out there by anybody else, but it's the first name that I'd think.
Yeah, Pat Kelsey was a point guard for Xavier. I think he graduated in 1998 from Cincinnati.
But do you make that move?
I don't know.
Xavier's in a different spot than South Carolina. There are real expectations there. There is a tradition and history there. So I don't think they make that move and go bring in Pat Kelsey, who's been at the College of Charleston for a year. They're making that move to go swing and swing big.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I don't have any reason to not, but I'll be interested to see if they do. If those conversations heat up, you would almost have to wonder, if Pat Kelsey's good enough for Xavier, why would he not be good enough for South Carolina? I don't know. But
I said yesterday, I think he is in line with a lot of things that we were talking about that we both like, that make a lot of sense. A, proven success with the portal. B, the type of personality. C, the offense and the team he's going to run out there. I think Kelsey makes a ton of sense for the Gamecocks. I just haven't heard it getting a lot of buzz.
Not yet. Like we've said, it's going to keep changing, though. So keep your eyes peeled. That's for sure. All right. We are out of time. Thanks to JC Shurburtt as always, and to you, Darren, and all of the rest of you. Again, 10 o'clock tomorrow, 10 to noon tomorrow and Friday. So y'all can watch your hoops, and Darren can watch his hoops, and I can watch my hoops until I have to go pick up my kids and then put them to bed and then try to watch hoops.
Wait, my kid's going to be watching hoops. Whether,
that's right.
whether she likes it or not, there are going to be hoops on.
Yeah, I think I'll pick mine up at like 5:30 tomorrow. That little break between the morning and afternoon. Everybody have a wonderful Wednesday afternoon. If you're in the Low Country, head to the Dog and Duck Tasty for the brown bag special. See you tomorrow at 10 a.m. on the JB and Goldwater Show.